So they did. Okay, let's get into this news. Because there is a good bit to get into.
Guildling's on Apple Arcade. It's really cool. You guys should check it out.
Oh boy.
I wound up playing through it. It made me so mad, Ben.
We'll talk about it next week.
Okay.
They announced a new Half-Life game.
All right, well, no, what's the real news?
XO19 happened.
Oh.
All right.
I feel like this happened in kind of a compressed fashion because the whole thing played out over the course of like 6 hours or something. I think it was only yesterday morning that or maybe it was the night before. Maybe it was Sunday night that
Stuff started leaking.
Snippets of I guess it was a pre-taped interview that was to air during the Game Awards, is my impression.
But
it was the transcript was not complete, so it was some
yes, it was like
from an
weird
interview.
quotes from like an interview or some video or something with Robin Walker and Jeff Keighley.
Right?
And was there a third person?
I believe a third person.
Oh, okay, yeah.
A third person is involved, but again, not all. I don't think that person was
Gordon Freeman. He didn't have a lot to say, but
Oddly quiet on this.
Anyway, the gist of it, here is the quote from Keighley: March 2020, Half-Life Alyx coming out. That's the quote from this interview.
Doesn't get a lot less definitive than that.
Yeah, but so I don't know if this video is something that is going to be, because they're announcing this game Thursday.
Thursday at 10 a.m.
But so I wonder if this video was for that, and it was like, okay, Keighley's got some lineage there with the final hours stuff, and they said that the other part of the transcript implies that he'll be doing a final hours of Half-Life Alyx.
Okay.
So I wonder if that's the connection, and it's not a Game Award. It never was a Game Awards thing.
You mean an announcement,
right? Or if this was supposed to be held until December. Because when this transcript leaked, it was attached to, hey, this anniversary is coming up. They're going to announce this very soon.
Okay.
Ahead of not wait for the Game Awards. So I don't know one way or the other where that was destined for. But either way,
now we know.
Valve just said fuck it.
They were like, a few hours later, they were like, all right, let's just tweet this out. We're excited to unveil Half-Life Alyx, our flagship.
Valve's news network worked on this story for decades, and they just tweeted it out.
Yep, they sure did. Our flagship VR game this Thursday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. So, there's a couple other quotes from this interview if you want to. I mean, this is kind of the most context we can get at the moment. At one point, I guess Keighley must have asked them about the idea of non-VR players being able to play the game.
Mm-hmm.
The response was, we would love to be delivering a version of this that you could play with a mouse and a keyboard, but like we said, it began as an exploration of VR. So that sounds like a very long-winded way of saying no.
Or a long-winded way of
VR
saying,
only.
You would hope that if they were going to go in and make what they're calling a flagship VR game, that it's not something you could translate to a mouse and keyboard. If you can, then...
And then the only other, and again, this is very fragmented and weird, but the other quote about what the game is this: you can see their whole body respond to the situation, panicking, dropping clips on the ground as they fumble their weapons because of zombies in front of them. It's been really fun watching playtests.
This just sounds like every other VR game.
That's possible.
Yeah. Like that,
entirely possible.
That sentence just sounds like, okay, that's what VR can do.
Yeah, like you
apparently
down
shoot
to
zombies.
The zombie in front of you.
Yeah, games fucking try to shoot a zombie.
Games where you hold a gun and put a clip into them.
Yep,
manually.
Yep,
and pull the action
you
back.
Watch your hand kind of vibrate out a little bit.
Oh no!
I mean, with some of the advancents in VR controllers that have been made in the last couple of years, that could still be cool.
Yeah, that stuff's coming along, and it's only going to get better. Like hand tracking and some of the other stuff that they're looking into these days, that could eventually be pretty cool.
I think the bigger thing to me is that subtitling this with the name of a character, for whatever reason, makes it feel like it might be on the smaller side.
Well, flagship VR experience can mean a lot of things, right? Because there's, a lot of VR games are smaller by nature anyway.
Right.
So,
my instant gut reaction to this was oh, I wonder what the scope of this actually is. Is it a 3-hour thing? Is it a 5-hour thing? Is it?
Yeah, or how story driven is it? Is it a horde mode? Is it a, what? Yeah, I think there's been. It sounds like there'll be some story. How about that?
Okay.
It's not necessarily just hey, just shoot stuff.
Right. I saw Rob Zachney from Waypoint floated the idea of this being a VR Lost Coast on Twitter.
Right.
Which is it sounds like the worst case scenario. He didn't say that it is that. It's just pure speculation. But
right.
But it does make you think maybe maybe this is not
Yeah.
I think
a
that,
full
like, it's like-
$60.
I mean, this
you
is not
wanna-
Half-Life 3.
This is not a 15-hour.
Well, no, yeah, and you know, I think there's some implication there about this. You know, is this a prequel? Is this you know, where is this set in the timeline? All that sort of stuff.
Does this address
It
like the
would
cliffhanger
have
they
to
left
be a
things on at all?
prequel, right? With the way episode 2 ends?
I mean, she's still around. Like,
Okay.
I don't
might
remember,
be foggy.
honestly. Like,
I thought it ended with her getting, like, swooped up.
that was her. Does she get? Her father dies at
Right.
the end of episode
Yes.
2. Like he's out of the picture. That's
Yeah.
kind of the big like
Okay.
gut punch at
Maybe
the end of
I'm-
episode 2.
Maybe I'm mistaken.
But
Because
I
yes, it
don't-
has been a while.
I don't remember what her fate is. She might get abducted or something like that.
Okay.
I don't remember. But she's not out of the picture. Like she's,
Right,
she's
okay.
still alive and so forth.
Yeah,
So-
but does
So
this
it
end
could
up
be- it
being
could be
like
set after
here's
that.
Alex and Dog doing stuff, which I feel like the idea of a Half-Life game starring Alex Vance has been something that has been like come up and had been rumored and it's like for fucking forever.
Yeah.
Forever. Like even back when Valve was still making Half-Life games, I feel like there were ideas kicking around about an Alex game. So I wonder if like this is them making good on some very old ideas in some ways, or how much like how okay, from a story perspective, is this making good on old ideas? From a versions of Half-Life 3 they have made over the years, are any of those ideas in this also?
I don't know what to believe anymore.
Uh,
Heard so many things.
I mean, that was a VR game at one point, right? That was a VR game.
What is again? Apparently,
Yeah. And now it's not Half-Life 3 anymore. So, or is it? Or how much of that game is in there? Is all of this new? Because, you know, like when they were making a VR Half-Life game a while back, presumably, let's say, we were before any of the headsets were on the market. Now you've got a lot of real data. You've got a lot of like, okay, you've got a lot of successes and failures out there in VR. So you've got a lot to look at when it comes to, okay, what do you want to do to make a quote unquote flagship VR game? I just wonder how much of the stuff that they thought about back then is still relevant. I feel like that's kind of like the disappointing thing is like actually that quote of fumbling a magazine in front of a zombie, I think is a real bummer, honestly.
Yeah.
Like looking at it, you just go like, okay, like if there's one thing I'm fucking tired of right now, it's like another VR shooting game. And like movement in VR is what it is.
Yeah.
It's teleportation. It's free movement, whatever you got. But
like
it's
there's
still
still problems that have not been.
it
very
ends up feeling like a
elegantly
shooting
solved.
gallery, and there are a fucking billion of them. And if Valve is throwing a ton of money and production value at this thing that makes it bigger and better and crazier, then that can still be cool. I don't think, you know, I'm certainly not saying, the book is closed for games with guns in VR, but fuck, man. Like Pistol Whip came out and people were like, this is the most amazing game I've ever played. I'm like, all right, yeah, you took a rhythm. It's like you took a Beat Saber-esque rhythm game, which there are already some of those, and then kind of made it into a shooting game, which there are a billion of those, and now you're heralding it like it's the fucking second coming in VR. Like, what the fuck is wrong with people?
I've got some hope. I mean, look at Valve's last 2 releases, and even though Artifact happened, but like Artifact could have been boring. That was the least of its problems. Like I think it was still a very interesting game. They like took some risks. They went for it. You know, Underlords, they could have just straight up copied Dota with Auto Chess, which they did at the beginning, but then turned it into a completely different game through time. Like it feels like the company has ambitions to make interesting and good video games again, and so I hope they can carry that into this.
Just not in the Valley of the Gods.
Whoa.
Wow.
Apparently that was not an interesting video game.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't say it. I'm not going to say it.
Yeah, man, I don't know. Like, sure, like they should make video games, right?
Yeah,
they should
hell
make
yeah.
it. They should make a new Half-Life.
They've made some good
Why
ones.
not?
Left 4 Dead 2, hell of a video game.
Why not? I would have thought that a Left 4 Dead 3 VR game
makes
would have happened.
Total sense to me.
Would have happened by now. Like that's the one that I figured was kind of the no-brainer, especially like in the wake of like an Arizona Sunshine or stuff like stuff like that. That was. But then maybe they saw that stuff and they were just like, all right, it's been done.
But I mean, like Left 4 Dead is something that's much more well defined and something that people are hungry for more of and would be accepting of more of. You know what I mean? Like, like if they just made a Left 4 Dead 3 that was like a modernized Left 4 Dead 2, most of the people who like Left 4 Dead would probably be fine with that.
But also, Valve just put out the Index not that long ago. Like, they've got a vested interest and a lot of time spent trying to solve problems for VR gaming.
Yeah.
So, like, you say that, but like, yeah, they could make a Left 4 Dead 3.
What I'm saying is that the Half-Life name carries a level of expectation for innovating and being like historic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I mean, Half-Life 1 is a landmark fucking video game. Like, that thing did things that nobody had done before.
It's no sin.
It's a very different conversation. Look, there are two kinds of people in this world, all right?
I'll go to the fucking wall on Sin versus Half-Life. I don't give a shit.
Oh, man.
You can can it, JC.
Yeah. Like, Half-Life 1 was an amazingly influential game. Like, Half-Life 2, to me, less so, but still a pretty big fucking deal.
No way, man. Half-Life 2 and what it did for physics.
Yes.
That is video games. That is like video games since Half-Life 2 are Half-Life 2.
Kinda. Sure.
That's it. Like, Half-Life 1 was a cool first-person shooter that did some fun storytelling stuff.
Yeah, but that was the thing.
But Half-Life 2, man, that is, like, I don't even like Half-Life 2 all that much, but in terms of influence, every game was physics
powered.
Yeah. Every game was physics. They still are.
Physics powers have a very narrow application, though, is what I mean.
Yeah, like, pushing stormtroopers off of ledges.
Yeah, like, so it's great for Star Wars games or psyops.
Right.
Yeah. Without Half-Life 2, there's no psyops. Like,
exactly.
That's kind of what I mean.
But block puzzles and picking shit up and moving it around.
Yeah, sure.
Like, that's just material. Yes. All that stuff. Like, that's been everywhere.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I was in that first E3 demo that they gave for that thing, and it was fucking mind blowing at the time. But a lot of that stuff is kind of mundane now.
I think that,
like, how do you follow that up?
Well, think about how they followed it up. Episode 1 and Episode 2 are not what you're saying.
No, I know they're not.
They were not. They did not push things forward.
Which I mean, who knows? That may be part of the reason they didn't get around to making 3.
Maybe there's like, what I think that's the thing with Half-Life 3, right? Is if you look at what 1 and 2 did for video games and did for Valve and all the other stuff, you have to sit there and go like, what could we make that would be that much of a landmark thing? And it's not another first-person shooter.
Right.
No matter how many people wanted that or whatever, just needed to see that story concluded, like, that's not what Half-Life ever really was. It was always that thing of like, here's something that is pushing things forward. Yeah. Here's Valve fucking putting its ass out there, doing some wild shit.
I mean, it could be another first-person shooter. It's just that there has been another 15 years of those.
When you're sitting on Steam, when you're sitting on fucking a pile of gold and you don't have to do anything, why would you make just another first-person shooter?
No. I'm saying it could come in the form of a first-person shooter, but it needs to have that next thing.
But it needs to have that next thing.
That's what I'm saying.
That's the thing.
Like,
that's what I'm saying.
Control is a good example of a game that's like, it's a third-person shooter, but they like the way they blend story elements and visual elements
and physics.
But like, that shows that you can like have a fresh take on a stale style of game.
Totally.
Yes. It's even in 2019.
Yeah, but
I think what people expect out of Half-Life goes even beyond just its presentation and atmosphere.
It's a broken level of expectation that they could never meet. So saying, hey, our next game is Half-Life Alyx, I think diffuses at least some of that.
I agree. I think it gets people to like, well, I feel like the Half-Life 3 jokes have kind of been a little drier these past couple of years. Just
after the story stuff got out or whatever, I think that was like, okay, like there were finally people that could move on or whatever. They were just like, all right, I can close the book on this. So they thought, yeah, I can close the book on this chapter of my life.
Story stuff
was it Laidlaw or whoever put out like the
like
big blog post about like here's
the stuff about the Borealis and all that? Okay, yeah.
Or the stuff that was like the very vaguely written, here is absolutely the story of episode 3, but not in name.
Right.
All that stuff. So yeah, I think when that happened, you had a lot of people that were like, okay, close the book on this, we're done.
Why isn't there a Portal VR?
It would make you throw up.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Budget cuts is Portal VR.
Throwing up from a video game would get me more fit than Ring Fit.
That's a dangerous way to get fit.
Ring Fit VR, combine the two.
What do you think this reveal is? Just a trailer? Probably.
A demo.
It's going to be the G-Man. He's going to be like, yo, what's up? You've been waiting, bitch. I'm back.
And then like someone's going to lean too far in and see inside his head.
He's like, how's it look?
It looks like the other side of your
eyeballs. He's got like a real Crypt Keeper attitude now. It's been a long time.
2020 G-Man. It's got a whole new vibe.
He vapes.
Oh, he's always vaped. He invented vaping. Not a lot of people know that.
I can't believe we're at the point now where I'm having to like look up and see how old the G-Man's voice actor is, because that's how long.
Right. Yeah.
Like Half-Life 1 came out 21 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And I'm just like, he's 52. He's fine.
still working?
He's fine.
He's waiting.
So yeah, like make a VR game. Like they're heavily invested in VR. They want to push that stuff forward.
This has been a long time
it's
coming.
probably very interesting work, at least. Like even if I'm not thrilled about a lot of the VR games that have shipped over the last year, like I think there are still interesting things to be done and interesting problems to solve, especially if you have access to all that technology and all that time. That's probably fun.
Yeah.
What if it takes place entirely in a kayak?
Now I'm on board. You want to talk about VR? That's a game. I think that game's not too far off. So, yeah, I think, call it Half-Life Alyx, lower the stakes a little bit. I think you've got a lot of people pissed off that it's a VR game, but like it was always going to, like that Valve is all in on that stuff, and it was kind of always going to be that.
They were always going to do this on some level.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, they were
like, you don't get behind a tech like this and not like pull out all your big guns to try to promote it.
Like they want people to buy hardware, even if I suspect on some level, even if it's not an index.
Yeah.
They would still like to see the install base of headsets grow.
Yeah. They'll happily sell you a VR game to play on another headset.
Yeah. So, I think the stuff that Valve has done in VR already has been cool in its own way. The lab and the lab.
Yeah, the lab's cool.
And just the Steam VR environment and how that's updated over time and stuff like that. Like that's stuff's all right. But yeah, I don't know. I don't care enough about the Half-Life universe or story anymore to be like, maybe it's a prequel and maybe Alyx is doing this. And it's just like, all right, all I envision is at some point Alyx is going to strap on some kind of metal frame that lets her control Dog 1-to-1, and you're going to do this with your arms and look at Dog, and Dog's going to be doing it too.
Sure.
In my head, that's what this game is.
And maybe there will be a gravity
and then Dog will pick up a fucking big box, and then you'll be able to walk out of the way, walk under the box.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm with you. I lost any expectation or real like burning excitement for Half-Life years ago just because it's been so long.
Yeah. And maybe this reignites some of that, maybe this gets them back to thinking about that universe and things they could do. For me, the interesting part about another Half-Life game was always the eventual collision of the Portal universe and the Half-Life universe. It was that idea of just like, what if Portal 1 and 2 are just really training you about how to use these portals and think your way through these logic puzzles, and then Half-Life 3 is Gordon finds a portal gun and now use it in combat.
Yeah,
that's an interesting hook.
That'd be cool.
Gladys G-Man. Just saying.
What?
Just saying.
What? Fuck.
Well, we'll find out on Thursday.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see what they...
I'm glad that they're not like holding this for too long. Like, just put something out
at this point.
Let people see what it is.
At this point, like if you're committed to it, just be open about it, right? I mean, that would be the most un-Valve-like thing for them to do with this, is to just come out and say, hey, here, and like, good on them for, kind of addressing the leaks or whatever and not letting this just linger for too long and just being like, yep, doing it.
Yep.
As advertised, we are doing the thing.
Yep.
So,
speaking of
but what
doing
happened,
things,
but what if this gets delayed?
I mean, if they're
suddenly
saying
is like 3 years from now,
somebody stole the source code.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're saying March, I think it's probably safe to assume this thing has been in progress for a long time.
It's probably damn near done.
Yeah.